look familiar to you guys? For those of you who are kind of desk workers and you're at your job a lot looking at that computer screen, you're kind of sitting over in your desk, you're hunched, your wrists are kind of up on the keyboard like little raptors. Today, I'm going to be showing you a few really important stretches that are going to be great for you guys to do on a daily basis throughout your work day to help kind of just relieve some tension that you might be feeling in some muscles and counteract, you know, sitting at the desk and looking forward and typing all day long. So without further ado, let's get into some of my favorite stretches for those of you who have your computer work. Okay, so first stretch I'm gonna show you is for our forearms. We're gonna do some stretches for the back of our forearm and the forearm itself. So if we wanna stretch the back of our forearm, we're gonna stick our arm out straight like so. And I'm gonna have you guys making sure that you're keeping your elbow nice and straight. It shouldn't bend at all. You're gonna use your other hand and you're gonna pull back on your wrist. So make sure that you're not just like pulling your fingers this way actively. That's actually going to activate these muscles that are on this side of our forearm. We're trying to keep this hand relaxed and we're gonna push with our opposite hand. We're gonna push our wrist closer to like our chest or our navel. And we're gonna hold this. All stretches in this video, we're gonna hold for at least 30 seconds. So let's hold this one. Make sure that you don't bend your elbow. Keep your elbow as straight as you can and push down. So that's gonna get a really good stretch back here on this side of our forearm. If we wanna do more the wrist and we wanna do this underside, we're gonna do the same thing of sticking our arm out straight, and I'm gonna also push my fingertips back towards my belly button. I can feel a really good stretch right in there, my wrist, and even up here a little bit. So hold this for about 30 seconds. If you guys can tolerate it, we could do this variation standing up on the desk. So if you guys have a desk that's a pretty good height for you, you can do these two stretches. It might be a little bit intense for some of you depending on your wrist flexibility and how tight you are, but I'll show you. I'm gonna do the back of the forearm first. I'm just gonna place the back of my palm down onto the desk. Let me scoot a little bit further away so you guys can see. Yep, I'm just gonna lean over. I'm gonna place the back of my palm down on the desk. I'm gonna straighten my elbow here. That feels good. I'm just gonna kind of shift my weight backwards until I feel a stretch in this forearm, in the back of the forearm. And then you can try to lay this even flatter. I'm gonna come forward a little bit. So now the whole back of my hand is actually on the desk. I'm gonna squeeze my elbow, squeeze that tricep, and then I'm gonna kind of shift my weight backwards, and I feel a really nice stretch right in the back of my wrist. You guys can do these on the floor too, but if you're at your office, this is, you know, way more convenient. And then we'll do the opposite. So now to stretch this forearm again, I'm gonna place the palm down onto the desk. So this one might be a little bit awkward depending on the height of the desk and the height of you. Assuming I was a little bit taller, I could come place my whole palm on the desk once more. And then I'm going to shift my weight backwards while keeping my elbow completely straight, right? I don't wanna lax up in my arm. I want this elbow to stay completely straight. And I feel a really great intense stretch kind of in that wrist and then even up here in this part of the forearm. So you can take whichever variation is a little bit more comfortable for you. And remember, you're holding those for 30 seconds. The next stretch I'm gonna show us is for our biceps, especially if you notice that your elbows stay like in this slightly bent position a lot. It might be because the long head of your bicep is in kind of a shortened position. So it might feel really good to stretch kind of the biceps. So to do that, I'm gonna use the edge of the desk. I'm just gonna grab onto the very edge like so. I'm also gonna keep my arm bone straight in this one. And I'm gonna just turn gently away from that arm and holding onto the desk. And I already feel that in this part of my shoulder. Like this part of my shoulder, you can feel that here. So same thing, keep your arm pretty straight. Don't bend at your elbow. The bicep crosses our elbow joint. It does elbow flexion. To stretch it, you have to make sure that your arm bone stays straight. If you bend it, then your bicep becomes shortened and you're not stretching your bicep anymore. Then we're gonna travel up a little bit higher and we're gonna stretch our neck. So we're gonna stretch two muscles kind of in the neck, and I've talked about them before, but here we go again. I'm gonna stretch the left side of my neck right here. So I'm gonna use these fingertips. I'm just gonna point these fingertips down and away, and I'm gonna drop my right ear to my right shoulder, like so. And then that feels pretty good. Sometimes if it feels good to kind of use your fingertips and draw your neck even slightly more down to that right shoulder, that can feel really, really nice. But don't apply too much pressure. If you guys are already feeling a stretch just by doing this, then you don't need to apply more pressure. So that feels really great on the side. If we want to target the back a little bit more, then I'm going to bring my right ear down to my shoulder once more, but I'm also going to tuck my chin and I'm going to look to my right armpit. And now, if that's enough, stop there. But if you need a little bit more of a stretch, then you can grab kind of the side, like back here. And I'm gonna tilt my neck just a little bit more down. So I'm kind of tucking my chin as I do this. Tuck my chin, I stretch to the side, a little bit down, and I feel that stretch just a little bit more in the back of the neck. And I really love that version. So one is stretching our upper trap and the other is stretching our levator scapula. So another stretch that might feel really good is stretching out those pecs. If you're actually sitting at your desk and you're not gonna get up and move to a wall, that's completely fine. This is the variation that we're gonna take so that you don't actually have to get up from your desk. We're just gonna clasp our hands behind our head. And I'm gonna have you bring your elbows out and bring your elbows back behind you. And then if you feel, you might feel a nice stretch back here. It's not the most ideal stretch in my opinion, but it'll be fine if you're just kind of sitting at your desk and you don't really have time to actually get up. I don't like the stretch as much because I have a tendency, like you just saw, to kind of poke my ribs out. You don't wanna just hyperextend your back and do this super exaggerated position, right? We want to hold our rib cage in and then move our elbows out to the side. So I think it can be a little bit difficult for some of us to get kind of the right body position. A lot of us are going to kind of naturally flare our ribs out, and we're not really stretching as much as we could be. We're not really stretching that pec that well, and we're just using our back to try to stretch. And for some of us, it might cause a little bit of discomfort in that low back. So if you're doing it this way, it might be nice to prop yourself up against your chair. Mine's a little bit too soft for that. I'm also going to show you guys a few activation exercises that you guys can do while you're sitting at your desk. That's going to be good to counterbalance that forward head posture. So one of them is by doing scapular squeezes, and that's using the muscles in your back, squeezing those to keep your arm bones back and down and keep your chest nice and tall. So instead of assuming this kind of rounded position all the time where the back of my upper back is in that rounded pose, you're kind of opening up and you're helping maintain that really nice sitting posture that we want. So you can think about your two shoulder blades, and if I were to put my finger right in between your shoulder blades or right in the middle of your back, right where your spine is, you're trying to pinch the finger by bringing your shoulder blades in towards one another. So I'm not just gonna move my arm bones back as far as I can. I'm not really thinking of moving my arm bones at all. If in the beginning it helps you to think about moving your arm bones backwards to help you get the position, you can, but over time you really just wanna use your shoulder blade muscles pulling together. So I'm gonna show you from the front. So I'm not gonna use my arm bones, I'm just gonna squeeze my shoulder blades into my back. Do you guys see how my arm bones did move backwards a little bit? But I'm not actually moving my arm bones back. That's literally just from me pulling my shoulder blades into the middle of my spine. And I'll show you from the back. So I'm just gonna squeeze my shoulder blades into my back. So relaxing, and now squeezing. Relax and squeeze. So these are really great to do if you guys want to do 2 sets of 10 while you're sitting at your desk after you do some of these stretches. That's going to help make those back muscles just a little bit active. So strengthening those muscles on our back a little bit is just going to help counterbalance this rounded position in our back and in our shoulders. The next one I've talked about all the time. And I've done a couple of videos on them already, but we can do some chin tucks. So chin tuck is gonna counterbalance this forward head position that so many of us take whenever we're looking at the computer, whenever we're looking at our phones, riding a bicycle, especially if you're commuting on a bicycle. This is a really great one to do. So I'm just gonna stand tall. I'm gonna show you guys. We are going to give ourselves a double chin, but mainly we are lengthening the muscles up here in our upper neck by contracting our deep neck flexors that are here, kind of up here. So if I'm in this position, I want to think of a couple of things. I want to think of bringing my chin straight backward into my skull with the goal of lengthening my neck. So if you've ever had anybody perform like a massage and they perform traction on your neck and they just kind of pull it for you, we're trying to mimic that action in a sense. So I'm gonna think of 2 things, of tucking my chin directly into my skull while pulling up on the base of my neck at the same time. And I give myself this ugly double chin, but that is fine. And then let it go. Okay, so we don't want to use these muscles to just drop our chin down, okay? We want to draw our chin straight backwards and lengthen up here in the base of our skull. So if somebody had a string right here and they're pulling up on that string, that's what it would look like. And now I feel a really good stretch actually in the back of my neck, and that just feels really good. And then relax. So tug up on that string, bring your chin straight back, and relax. So you guys can also perform that one 10 times in a row. If it feels good to hold it for 2 or 3 seconds, that's completely fine. And I recommend practicing the hold. And if you wanted to do 2 sets of that, then you could do that as well. All right, you guys, so those are some of my favorite stretches for you guys to do at your desk. Super easy, super simple. Remember that you're holding each of those stretches for 30 seconds. And then after those stretches, you can do those scapular squeezes and those chin tucks to help kind of activate the opposing muscles that are getting like tight while you guys are sitting at your desk. So if you use any of these stretches, please comment below. Let me know how they felt for you. And I'll see you guys in another video very shortly.